Hi guys, what's up? Look, it's a Sony. Yeah, that's pretty obvious because Sony smartphones are really easy to pick in a crowd. That's true for this, the Xperia XZ3, which has Sony's design language written all over it. This company really enjoys doing its own thing and not worrying about trends a lot. So, it's instantly recognizable as a Sony, but what's the XZ3 like to live with day in and day out for an extended period of time? Does it have what it takes to be your daily driver? Well, let's find out. I'm Vlad for GSM Arena, and this is our long-term review of the Sony Xperia XZ3. I think this phone looks classy, but already dated. Those bezels really look out of place in 2019, what with every other phone maker trying their best to erase them as much as possible. Not Sony though, it seems to be proudly banking on being different. The XZ3 has a fingerprint scanner on the back. Wait, that's not it. Let's just say the sensor isn't where you'd want it to be, so be prepared for finger gymnastics all day, every day. There's no camera hump, but there is a slight bulge on the back where the camera is, which makes for a look that stands out. The bulge also means that the XZ3 placed on its back on a couch or bed will find it really hard to resist the temptation to fall off. It's like a clumsy kid who always needs parental supervision. But unlike with kids, you can just use a case and that will fix the issue. Build quality is as amazing as you'd expect from a flagship smartphone, and while the headphone jack is gone, you still have a dedicated camera button and a SIM tray that comes out without the need for a special tool. The screen is finally an OLED panel. Sony sure took its sweet time jumping to this tech that all of its competitors have been using for their high-end devices. But it's here, and it's curved on both sides, and it's very sharp, and it's a joy to look at, inside or even outside in bright sunlight, it doesn't matter. On the other hand, I did get randomly occurring unregistered touches multiple times a day. That may be down to software, perhaps the palm rejection algorithm that otherwise works very well. Hopefully it's not a hardware issue, or at least if it is, it's only on our unit, because that would somewhat spoil the experience of using this great screen. The XZ3 runs Android 9 Pie and it's been kept fairly up to date with security patches. While it may not always be on the absolute latest one, it still comes pretty close. If you like the concept of stock Android, you'll feel right at home in Sony's interpretation of the OS, which it skins very lightly. If you're coming from a Pixel or an Android One device, you'll get used to this in no time. There are some strange quirks though. First off, there's no gesture navigation system whatsoever, not even Google's half-baked attempt. This in a world where other manufacturers are shipping that alongside their own version. So with Sony, what you get is just the usual 3 navigation buttons sitting pretty in their own bar at the bottom. Also, the multitasking menu is the one from Oreo, not Pie, for some reason. This may be connected to the lack of navigation gestures, I'm not sure. Still, it's a vertically scrolling thing, which is a species that seems to be going extinct. The XZ3 is definitely a fast phone, as you'd expect given that it comes with the Snapdragon 845. But here's the thing, it's definitely not a champ when it comes to smoothness. Not only is it very far from a new Pixel, it's far from a lot of other high-end devices that cost less than it still does. And that's baffling, to be honest. There's a slight lag throughout the UI, and I've encountered stutters here and there every single day. Here's just one example. You can double tap the Recents button to go back to your previously used app, right? Well, theoretically, but the XZ3 more than half of the times simply doesn't register the second tap, so you're stuck in the multitasking view. Oh, and when the battery level goes below 10%, the entire UI pretty much becomes a lag fest. Battery life has been good, but obviously limited by the capacity of the cell. 3300 mAh might be good enough for most average users, but won't enable record-breaking stats. A lot of other phone makers have started to cram 4000 mAh batteries in their flagships, and it's high time Sony took notice. The XZ3 has pretty reliably lasted me until the end of the day with 4 to 7 hours of screen on time, but your mileage will, not may, vary. Overall, the phone's endurance is exactly what I expected given the battery capacity, nothing more and nothing less. Topping up the battery is weird because while the phone supports fast charging through USB power delivery, the charger that comes in the box doesn't, and it's very slow. The XZ3's cameras are nice, but not the best out there. It's a very familiar unit on the back because Sony's been using it for some of its previous flagships as well. So on one hand, that's a tried and tested solution, but on the other hand, not having OIS in a top-shelf phone in 2019 isn't really excusable anymore.
It does produce very good 4K HDR video though, and Sony's 960 frame per second super slow-mo mode is still great, and in 1080p, provided you can capture the exact moment of movement. The camera app might take some getting used to because surprisingly, it's not a clone of every other camera app out there like most seem to be nowadays, but it is fast and reliable. Photos come out nice in good lighting conditions, but if you're a fan of preserved highlights, you're gonna have to use HDR. There's some noise in the images which goes up as the ambient light levels go down, but there's a lot of detail to compensate for that and the shots are sharp. Selfies come out good too, but they do get soft in low light. Overall, the XZ3 is definitely a good smartphone. It looks great if not necessarily very modern, it has a solid build and the screen is nice. It's got amazing front-facing stereo speakers, wireless charging, and an IP68 rating for water and dust resistance, which is still the best you can get in the mobile world. Its software is pretty much up to date and very lightly skinned, and the cameras produce pleasant images. But performance really isn't what it should be for a flagship. The lags and stutters remind me of Samsung's from a few years ago, and I don't think anyone wants to be reminded of TouchWiz. At all. Ever. On the other hand, if you enjoy standing out in a crowd of people with look-alike handsets, the XZ3 will serve you well. But it seems like not a lot of people are actually convinced by Sony's phones, and its sales numbers attest to that. I feel like what most folks are looking for in a top-shelf device right now is for it to get the basics right. Modern looks, a great screen and amazing cameras, ample battery life, and a fast and smooth software experience. While the XZ3 delivers on some of those, it doesn't really nail all of them, and that might end up being a turnoff for a lot of people.
If you want to learn even more about the XZ3, check out our written long-term review, which is linked in the description below. But wait, before you go, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, and while you're there, why not subscribe to our channel for more content in the future? I don't know about you, but I always like to go the extra mile, so I'd hit the bell icon too. That way, you'll be notified whenever we post something new. I'll see you guys next time.